Welcome to Tech Time Podcast, episode 12. We're back again, and we have a lot of things to talk about this week. The first thing we wanted to talk about is Tim Cook wants Bloomberg to retract its spy chip story. So, Matt, a couple weeks ago, we talked a little bit about this Apple Watch that maybe went into an embassy in Turkey and, overheard some things with its recording technology. Can you catch us up on what's going on with Tim Cook here?
Yeah, actually, so this is interesting. This goes back to 2015.
Even further back.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So this one goes back and basically Apple has a lot of manufacturing that happens in China, but not just Apple, Amazon as well. And then there's a few chip makers and motherboard makers that are also part of this article the Bloomberg put out. So this article's actually been out for a couple of weeks now, but it's just this week that people have started to get angry about it, specifically Tim Cook. So what they're accusing happened is that there was a mass surveillance program, and they're not sure if it was the Chinese government or if it was industrial espionage done by a company, but it sounds like a little bit of both. It was the Chinese government saying, okay, Foxconn, or okay, whatever other companies out there is making these Amazon, Apple, and chip products, I'd like you to put some spy hardware. And so this is hardware going into these systems. And that's what is alleged in the story by Bloomberg. So now Tim Cook has come out and he says, quote, there is no truth to this story about Apple. They, meaning Bloomberg needs to do the right thing and retract it. Now, this is interesting because, there's a lot of Apple haters out there. And Tim Cook, if he tried to ask everybody to retract something that he didn't feel was accurate or correct, that would be his full-time job times 10. So it is interesting that he is talking out about this, but that's a big deal. If you could say every iPhone out there is compromised and is potentially spying on you because it was put together in China, that's a big deal. And so Andy Jassy, who is the head of Amazon Web Services, which are the products that were alleged to be compromised, he agreed with Tim Cook and also asked for a retraction from Bloomberg. So I'd like to see what happens. Is there proof behind these allegations? According to Tim Cook and according to Andy Jassy, no, there is no proof. However, Bloomberg hasn't retracted it, and I'd really like to know, is there a smoking gun? Have they found a little spy piece inside this equipment? I'd really like to know. And if that's the case, what would that do to China as the manufacturing mecca of the world right now?
Well, maybe we'd have to start moving things to the States or other countries.
Well, that's, of course, exactly what Donald Trump wants and what he's been trying to do. He was successful in at least getting Apple to move their flagship or their mast, so the head of their company from Ireland back to the United States. Can he bring manufacturing back? And then what would that do to the price of these goods?
Because shoot them up, of course.
Of course, it'll be very expensive. So we'll see what happens. Now, what's also interesting about this is a lot of the worries about spying has actually been in the cell phone arena, specifically around 5G technologies. So I know there was a big deal about the United States government. Some of these Chinese companies wanted to bid on building the 5G network in the US. And right now, the United States government is calling for the 5G networks to be, quote, free of the possibility of overseas interference. And also just earlier this year, the government of Australia blocked all Chinese carriers from bidding on their 5G networks for the exact same concerns that they could be spying on the Australian government, on companies, and doing industrial espionage, which is exactly what is alleged by Bloomberg with Apple, Amazon, and with these chips that are being made. So I don't know. What do you think, Dan? Do you think it's a true possibility that there is not just spyware, but spy hardware that is installed in some of these things?
Well, let's start out with all of the money that Australia is losing because
Yeah.
taking China out of the arena of the bidding
Oh,
process for 5G is just going to lose them so much money. I mean, there is so much money coming out of China right now, especially for technology, and also out of Asia. I mean, SoftBank in Japan owns so many things that it would just make your head spin if you knew how much they're involved in the United States and how many things they own. And so for them to completely pull out this Asian money is really surprising to me. And they must have some real concerns because that's a lot of money lost. There must be some
absolutely.
truth behind it if they're absolutely pulling them out.
Well, think about just the proximity of Australia to Asia
Oh,
and
it's
to
so
China,
close. Yeah, I mean,
right? Like
it's
it
like
would
our
be much
Mexico,
more
right?
affordable.
Like they're
Yeah,
always going to to Hong Kong or to Thailand for their vacations because it's so close.
yeah.
And there is a lot of proximity, and actually a lot of immigrants go to Australia from Asia. And so it's surprising that they're cracking down on that. Now, there's a rule that I always follow when it comes to cell phones and electronics and digital media. If you have something private to say, go say it to someone's face. Don't call them. Don't text them. Just say it to them.
Just like the story you told us last week about
Yes.
the lady who confessed her love to a doctor through Messenger and deleted it and
And then
didn't
she deleted it and thought she was fine, but then she realized that that's not a feature that's out yet. What?
undo,
Undo.
undo.
It's 2018, Facebook. Get it together.
So let's keep talking about spying. So
Okay.
it's not just spying with hardware and spyware. It turns out that there's another story here that Twitter actually fired a spy for Saudi Arabia. Now, I found this story interesting, especially considering the fact that Saudi Arabia has been in the news for the last couple of weeks over the Khashoggi murder and execution. And so then all of a sudden somebody goes, well, back in December of 2015, didn't we catch a spy for the Saudi government working at Twitter?
He was
Uh,
working at Twitter, like in the United
he
States?
was, yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually not sure what office he was working out of. They may have offices overseas, but this spy specifically targeted Twitter, got a job there, and was monitoring accounts that were negative um, to against the Saudi government. So if Khashoggi had a Twitter account, that's what this guy would have been doing. And depending on what access he had, he could have shut them down. He could have censored them. Who knows what the plan was? But apparently it was discovered in time, and Twitter says nothing terrible was done on behalf of the Saudi Arabian government before we
What?
found him.
How awkward would that office conversation be? Hey Jim, what are you doing over there in your cubicle? Do you want to come over here for a minute? We have to talk about something.
Just a minute, just spying here on dissidents from the Saudi Arabian government.
Click,
Just a second. Yeah.
close, click.
Undo, undo.
Are you doing espionage in your cubicle? No.
No, these beige walls are
Well, that's
sucking
kind of the
blank.
whole
Yeah,
crazy thing about Khashoggi, right? I mean,
yeah.
wasn't he murdered? Well, I mean, supposedly, we don't know for sure, but
Oh,
don't
they've
they?
come out and admitted he died. So that's recent. That finally the Saudi Arabian government has said what we've all known all along. They admitted he has died in the consulate. They just lost his body.
So did he slip on the bathroom floor while he was taking a leak, or what was?
No, no, they said it was a fist fight. I mean, hey, have you seen this guy? He's a brawler. Not at all.
He's like, he's somebody that's old enough to go to Costco and enjoy an ice cream there.
He
I can't,
is.
I can't
And
picture.
apparently he takes on 15 Saudi Arabian government agents that are his kill squad, including a forensics expert with a bone saw. He looks at
Uh-huh.
him and he's like, I will take you on. Anyways, yeah,
Wild.
that's the latest. So yes, spies are everywhere.
Even on Twitter, we are not spies. But I think if somebody worked for YouTube for the Saudi government, they'd probably be watching this video right now and flagging us because we brought them up several times for the past podcast.
Dan, we are in so much trouble. Saudi Arabia, Russia especially. I guarantee you Putin knows exactly who we are.
With the moose and squirrel. And if I slip in a bathroom somewhere, you all know what happened.
Just record it on your Fitbit. We've already said that, so we're gonna
I always have my Fitbit recording everything, including this. Okay, so what I really want to talk about now is the OnePlus new announcement, the 6T.
Yes.
Now, you had already told us, I think last week, that this is switching to the 29th of October.
That's correct.
Yeah, let's just talk a little bit about what's to be expected.
So in typical OnePlus fashion, there is so much that gets leaked in advance. Now that's on purpose, and Carl Pei, who is one of the co-founders of OnePlus, totally admits it. In fact, he's the reason why we know so much about the OnePlus 6T that's coming out. And there were some really interesting leaks that came out literally before we started recording this. I found an article that was 15 minutes fresh, and it talked about a German website that accidentally posted it in advance, and we got another little bit of information. We thought we knew everything about the 6T, but according to this website, if you can believe it, there's going to be expandable memory. So you could put an SD card in it.
I love that.
I love it too. I love it with my Samsung device. I've used it in the past, and this will be a first for OnePlus. So if this ends up being true.
Do you have an S9?
I do. I have an S9 Plus.
And it has expandable memory?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow, that is really cool.
Yeah, they all do right now. The S9, the S9 Plus, the Note 9, and fingers crossed the 10 that comes out in the spring will also. Yeah. So let's get into what we think is going to be announced. So the big news is the under fingerprint scanner. So this is going to be the first that's going to be commercially available in the United States. There are a few that have already beat others or OnePlus to the punch. I believe there's some Xiaomi phones, but basically these are phones that are not commercially available outside of China. There might even be one in India, but it's the first generation of Synaptic's under the screen fingerprint reader. It's an optical reader. It takes a picture of your fingerprint and compares it to what it's got stored. Very similar actually to fingerprint readers that you have regularly that you just touch on the back or the side of your phone. However, it's slow. So the first gen is slow. What's making this pretty exciting is this is the second gen fingerprint reader, and those people who have played around with this OnePlus 6T say it's so much faster. It's just as fast, they claim, as using a regular fingerprint reader on the back or the front of your phone.
That's
so I'm
amazing.
looking forward to seeing that. That sounds pretty cool. We also know from a box that appeared to have been leaked, and this was like a month ago, that it's going to have a very tiny notch. So the OnePlus 6 has a notch, and it's pretty minimal when you compare it to the iPhone 10s with their giant notches that take up 3/4, if not more, of that top. So it's just a little teardrop notch, and it's just big enough for a camera. So that's it, and it looks pretty minimal. I like it. It means it's going to be frustrating for you to program more apps for a tiny notch.
Why?
Instead of a big notch. Just keep that part of the screen empty. That's all I can suggest.
You have a black bar on the top of all of my screens.
Yeah. So other things that have been leaked. Oh, here's some bad leaks. You can still have bad leaks. It looks like OnePlus is getting rid of the headphone jack. Lots of people have done that. Yeah.
But they seem like the kind of company that's like anti-Apple. You know, they've got their memory expansion, they've got their fingerprint scanner in the screen instead of it's bizarre that they would get rid of the headphone jack.
Well, this is what's interesting is Carl Pei says, we are a company that listens to our customers. That's what he claims. And so he says, we sent out a poll and you, the customer, said, You don't care about the headphone jack.
Look at us both right now. We're both using headphones that plug into a jack. Am I
Yes,
right?
we are. We are headphone jack users.
Give me
We
the
love it.
headphone jack. Yeah.
So, anyways, Carl Pei says 59% of OnePlus customers already have wireless headphones. And of course, expect that he's going to release some new OnePlus headphones that will be Bluetooth headphones. Apparently, there's going to be a dongle, and Carl Pei also says you can always buy USB-C headphones. Yeah, Carl, but I can't charge my phone at the same time. I
Good
think
point.
that's the biggest frustration is you can't charge your phone at the same time using a dongle or USB-C headphones. And, if you're using wireless headphones, you're draining batteries there too. So, oh well.
Well, here's the thing. I know I'm like from the 90s still, but I actually plug my phone into the auxiliary port in my car. And I
Yeah.
want it to charge while I'm driving too. Come on,
Yes.
guys.
You
Keep
can't do
keep the
that.
iPhone jack. That's so annoying.
Yeah. Unless you have wireless charging, so maybe that can happen. But in any case, so here's some of the pros of why Carl Pei does it. He says it gives us more internal space. So specifically, you can have a bigger battery because you're removing some hardware out of the phone.
Do you
Um,
remember when Apple said that though? They said that the battery is so much bigger because of the space, and then you actually crack open the phone and it's just
it's
an
the
empty
same.
space. It's
It's
an empty
exactly the
space.
same. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a bad idea. Well, and then the other thing is, and this is true, is it makes it easier to waterproof
I'll
the
give you
phone,
that. Yeah,
right?
I'll give you
It's
that.
another opening that doesn't let anything in. So that's good. But I gotta tell you, I love my headphones. I got Bose headphones. They stay in my ear when I'm at the gym. They're good phones. They got beautiful sound. So, anyways, that's frustrating. But other things about the phone, it will be released on T-Mobile's 600 megahertz spectrum. So
Cool.
that's a brand new spectrum that T-Mobile is unlocking. And by the way, if you want to use it on Verizon, don't worry and say, "Oh, Verizon doesn't have the 600 megahertz spectrum." It's okay because their phones work on Verizon just fine as well. All their phones come unlocked. I'm sure even if you get it on T-Mobile, it should come unlocked. I don't know for sure. We'll find out, but you should be able to unlock it anyways and use it on Verizon.
Well, I love the price point. I was looking at your article and it made me dance with glee because that's about
Yeah.
how much I want to pay for a cell phone.
Yeah, so $650 to $670. I saw some rumors that it's going to go back to the 500 to 550 to 560, but it just doesn't seem likely, especially comparing the prices of the last OnePlus 6. So, yeah, expect it around 650, 670, and you're going to have some kind of waterproofing, especially now that the headphone jack's gone. Let's see if they get wireless charging. That's one thing that was missing from the last one. They do have NFC that came in on the OnePlus 5. So really the only thing that we're missing right now is wireless charging, and you get all those great internals. Remember, this is going to come with a Snapdragon, the latest Snapdragon, what is it, the 845 that's out this year. So
Dang.
you're going to get some really good specs with this phone. That's why they call it a flagship killer. And it has been a flagship killer since it came out.
Well, it's going to be literally half the price of all the other flagships.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if they keep going up. I mean, wasn't there a phone we were talking about last week where it was like $1,200?
Yes. Yes.
And we were like, whoa. So this is literally half the price of that.
Well, here's the thing about OnePlus, right? Is it's awesome for the emerging markets like India and China because in
Yeah.
those locations, people do have more money now, but they don't want to pay 1200 US for a phone. You'll find that OnePlus is huge in India and Asia, and
Yes.
because it's a better price point. I mean, here you and me, I mean, I would prefer to buy it over something $1,000 from Samsung, but I mean, it's going to be huge over there.
And I bought two OnePlus phones. I love OnePlus. The only reason why I got a Samsung phone right now is it was a pretty sweet deal trade-in that worked well with the plan that I had. And I was so close to buying a OnePlus 6. And I got to tell you, I wasn't excited about the notch. Now I look at this and it's even less of a notch. It's looking pretty exciting. So, rumors
I want to
have
hear the
already
rumors.
started this week about the OnePlus 7.
Woo!
So
When
it's
would that come out? In Barcelona next year? In February? Barcelona.
They usually announce, I believe it's in March or April. So
Mhm.
about the same time, a little bit after Samsung releases their phones. So I don't think actually OnePlus have ever announced at Barcelona, but it's usually close. So yeah, let's look forward to that. But here's the rumor. It's not a rumor, actually. It was confirmed just on October 23rd. And it was Carl Pei made the announcement at Qualcomm's big 5G summit in Hong Kong, and it's that the OnePlus 7 is going to be the first commercially available 5G cell phone
Holy
in the United
cow.
States.
Well, here's what I want to know. Do they even have standards for 5G? Like, do they know how it's going to work already? I thought it was still a
Yeah.
work in progress.
It isn't, and it is. Let me explain. They have a standard. So let me just scroll down. This is in some of our old news that we didn't talk about, but they have a standard, and it's called 5G NR, and that's the global standard that's coming in 2019. There is another close to standard that Verizon is actually installing right now in some select cities. It's in Houston, LA, San Francisco, and Indianapolis, and they started doing that about 3 weeks ago. And it's 5G TF, or the TF stands for Technical Forum, and it's proprietary to Verizon. And
Boo.
I know, boo. But it's on the same spectrum as regular 5G, the 5G NR. And the only reason that Verizon says they're not installing 5G NR right now is because it's not ready. Even though it's the standard, they say we've been working on the TF for so long and we're ready to go with the TF, and we can easily upgrade TF to NR when NR is ready.
Cool. Now, here's the thing about 5G. I mean, we're all getting excited about it, but who really has an unlimited data plan right now? When you talk to most of your friends, they have maybe 2 gigabytes, maybe 5 gigabytes. If you have a 5G access and you only have 2 gigabytes of data a month, it's going to go in 10 minutes. You're going to be listening to your live streaming music and it's over.
Well, you know what? I hope this is going to drive the price down, just like going to 3G did. So remember with 2G, we were able to like get some web pages, but it was like turn off all the photos because it was just burning through our data. And then when 3G came out, it brought data. I mean, it brought pictures. It was so much quicker to load a web page. And then 4G really brought video. So all of a sudden you could be sitting on the bus and you could be looking at YouTube videos and Facebook videos and, YouTube Live. Hello,
Netflix.
everybody.
Hello. Yeah.
Netflix and all the other things that you can be doing. So 5G is just going to bring massive amounts of data, and I'm hoping that it will also mean that it will be cheaper. Now, here's the problem with 5G is the hardware has to be really close to each other because of the spectrum that it's working on. You're going to have to be 150 feet apart. So a lot of people are concerned about this. I was reading some interesting articles about it where they're starting to install in some of these cities like Indianapolis and San Francisco.
What do you mean 150 feet apart, like from someone you're calling?
Well, actually from the antenna. So
Oh.
it's basically a line of sight situation. So when you're in other spectrums like what we're currently dealing with in 4G and 3G, you can broadcast that signal at a much greater range, but you don't get as much data. Whereas 5G, you get these laser super awesome amounts of data flying at you, but you basically have to be able to see it. And if you get past 150 feet, then it starts slowing down and getting worse and worse, and you can't get through trees. So imagine that there's an antenna, a 5G antenna that you're using, and the wind starts blowing the leaves in front of that antenna. You're going to notice it.
Interesting. Now, this might work well in like a stadium situation or a Disneyland situation, theme parks, where, there's a lot of open space and people's phones get bogged down because there's thousands of people there. But it would be terrible inside your house. I mean, your windows are always
Yeah.
closed, you know?
Hey, I'm willing to bet you're going to have 5G boosters for your house. So you can buy 4G, 3G boosters for your motorhome because you're going to be out in the middle of Nowheresville, but you're going to be buying these boosters for your house so that you can be in your basement and still be able to get your data. I mean, look at 5G, how much information can come. We'll probably pull the plug on coaxial cable because we don't need coax, right? Like,
That'd be great.
we're not gonna, or Cat 5. We're not gonna need Cat 5. We're not gonna, like, it's gonna be so blazing fast, but we're also gonna need to build that infrastructure. So that's why I think 5G is gonna take a while. Is it gonna come out in 2019? Sure. Are we gonna be on it? Because even Qualcomm says there's gonna be at least 2 phones in 2019 that will be able to use 5G. That's it. Just 2.
And are these light spectrum rays going to give us cancer? Maybe.
Maybe. But they'll be beaming through us and around us.
We'll be watching our Netflix on HDR quality all day long. Yeah.
Now, what's fascinating about this is they're actually doing some really cool things. So they're going to be bouncing these 5G signals off of walls. So there's actually going to be a lot of engineering that goes into it. If you set up an antenna over here and an antenna over there, you might be bouncing that signal off of a wall before it gets to the antenna. So that's kind of their plan, is to use a lot of bouncing, a lot of antennas to be able to blanket the places that we want to use 5G. But man, we're not going to see it out in rural areas. You're not going to be on a farm on 5G. But cities, absolutely. Cities, you're going to see 5G, and you'll probably run out and buy a 5G booster for your house if you've got a 5G phone, and that's how you're getting your internet. So they say it's going to change the world. I think it's going to be slower than we think because of the infrastructure, and a lot of people are concerned, what's it going to make my neighborhood look like if every tree or every lamppost or every light post is going to have an antenna? And how expensive is that? And
how is there no other solution to this? Like, when all the scientists sat down and thought about it, like, couldn't there be another way that is less lossy to just, transfer the data as quick as 5G, but through a wall,
Well, maybe. I think what they're doing is they're already finding those workarounds by literally working around the objects and doing the bouncing. So let's see what happens.
Okay. Well, this is fascinating stuff, Matt. Again, thank you so much for joining us on our Tech Time podcast. If you have time, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as well, please subscribe to us on your podcast application, whether it be through Apple iTunes or through the Google Play Store. We're also on Spotify and Stitcher. And we'd love to hear from you. Send us some tweets, shoot us an email. We love to interact with you guys. And that's why we do this. So have a good week.
Talk at you next time.